I heard my 6-year-old daughters call another woman mom, and my entire world collapsed in that single moment. My husband's family told me to pack my bags and leave. They said I was the problem, the outsider who never belonged. I lost my home, my marriage, and worst of all, my children. Everyone believed I was the villain in this story. But here's the thing about truth. It doesn't stay buried forever. And when it finally came out, the people who destroyed me never saw it coming. My name is Rebecca, and for 8 years I thought I had everything figured out. I was married to Daniel, a commercial architect who designed shopping centres and office buildings. We had twin daughters, Lily and Rose, who had just turned 6. They were my entire world, these two beautiful girls with matching dimples and different personalities. Lily was bold and adventurous, while Rose was gentle and thoughtful. I'd given up my career as a nurse when they were born because Daniel and I agreed that our children deserved a parent at home during those precious early years. We lived in his family's estate, this sprawling property that his parents owned. His mother, Patricia, had never quite warmed up to me. I wasn't from their world, you see. I came from a working-class family. My dad was a mechanic, my mum was a teacher. Daniel's family owned a successful construction business, and in Patricia's eyes, I simply wasn't good enough for her son. But Daniel loved me, or so I believed, and that was all that mattered. His sister Vanessa was polite but distant, always making me feel like I was on trial, constantly being evaluated. About 6 months before everything fell apart, I started noticing changes. Daniel was working late almost every night. He'd come home exhausted, barely kiss me hello, and head straight to his office. His phone was always face down on the table. When it buzzed, he'd snatch it up quickly, step out of the room. I'd catch him smiling at his screen sometimes, then quickly switching to a serious expression when he noticed me watching. I told myself I was being paranoid. Marriage has its seasons, right? Sometimes you're close, sometimes you drift a little. I trusted him completely. We had children together. We had a life. Why would I question that? But looking back now, I can see all the signs I ignored. The way Vanessa stopped inviting me to family lunches. The way Patricia would purse her lips when I spoke, as if everything I said annoyed her. The way Daniel stopped reaching for my hand when we walked together. Love doesn't die overnight, but I think mine was dying slowly, and I was too busy being a mother to notice I was losing my husband. The day my life exploded was a Tuesday in March. It was unusually warm for early spring, and Rose had complained of a stomachache at school. I picked both girls up early and decided to get them from Patricia's house, where Daniel had dropped them off that morning. He'd been doing that more often lately, having his mother watch them before school, saying it helped him get to work earlier. I let myself in through the side gate, the way I always did. I could hear the girls laughing in the garden, and my heart lifted at the sound. That's the thing about being a mother. Your children's joy is your joy. Their laughter is music you never get tired of hearing. Then I saw her. A woman I didn't recognize was sitting on the garden bench with my daughters. She was young, maybe late 20s, with perfectly styled auburn hair and expensive clothes. But that's not what made my blood run cold. It was the way my daughters were looking at her, the way Lily was holding her hand, the way Rose was leaning against her shoulder, and then Lily said it, clear as day, loud and happy. "Mommy Christine, watch this, Mommy Christine." My legs almost gave out. I stood there frozen, watching this stranger smile at my daughter, watching Rose giggle and say, "Mommy Christine taught me how to braid hair yesterday." The woman, Christine, looked up and saw me. The colour drained from her face. She knew exactly who I was. Before I could speak, before I could scream or cry or demand answers, Patricia appeared from the house. But there was no surprise on her face, no shock or concern, just cold, calculated composure. "Rebecca," she said, her voice ice, "we need to talk." What happened next felt like an out-of-body experience. Patricia called a family meeting, right there, right then. Daniel arrived within 20 minutes, which told me he'd been nearby, waiting, perhaps. He wouldn't look at me. My husband of 8 years, the father of my children, couldn't even meet my eyes. Patricia did most of the talking. She told me that Daniel and Christine had been together for several months, that Christine was an interior designer who worked with their company, that the girls had been spending time with her, getting to know her, and they adored her. She said it like it was a good thing, like I should be happy my children were bonding with my husband's mistress. Vanessa chimed in, her voice dripping with condescension. Christine understands our world, Rebecca. She fits with this family in ways you never did. I looked at Daniel, waiting for him to say something, anything, to defend me, to tell his mother she was wrong, to fight for our marriage. He just stood there, silent and weak, staring at the ground like a coward. Then came the final blow. Patricia informed me that I needed to pack my things and leave. This was their family home, she reminded me. I had no legal right to it. And as for my daughters, they were staying. Daniel would file for custody, and given their resources, their lawyers, their standing in the community, I didn't stand a chance. I tried to take my girls with me. I grabbed their hands, sobbing, telling them we were going home together. But Lily pulled away, confused and scared. Rose was crying. Vanessa physically stepped between us, and Patricia called me hysterical, unfit, unstable. I left with one suitcase and a shattered heart. My old colleague from the hospital, the only friend who didn't abandon me, let me sleep on her couch. I cried for 3 days straight, barely able to breathe through the grief. The next 4 months were the darkest of my life. Daniel's lawyers moved fast and ruthlessly. I was painted as an unfit mother in legal documents I could barely afford to fight. They said I was mentally unstable, that I'd been neglecting the children, that I had no stable home or income. All lies, but lies backed by money and power. I was granted supervised visitation, 1 hour per week in a cold office with a social worker watching my every move. My daughters would come in confused, asking why I didn't live with them anymore, why I couldn't come to their school events, why everything had changed. I had no answers that a 6-year-old could understand. Meanwhile, Christine had moved into my life completely. She was at every family gathering, every birthday party, every moment that should have been mine. I saw the photos on social media. Daniel's family made sure they were public. Christine braiding the girls' hair, Christine taking them to the park, Christine at the family Christmas card photo shoot, standing where I should have been standing. People in our community took sides, and most of them chose Daniel's family. They had influence, reputation, money. I was just the nurse who'd married above her station and couldn't make it work. Old friends stopped returning my calls. I was alone, broken, grieving children who were still alive but felt lost to me. I barely ate. I couldn't sleep. I'd wake up reaching for my daughters, forgetting for a moment that they weren't there, and then the reality would crash over me again. Some mornings I didn't know how I'd survive another day. Then, 4 months after I'd been kicked out of my own life, something happened that changed everything. I ran into Mr. Harrison at a coffee shop downtown. He was Daniel's business partner, a man in his early 60s who was planning to retire. He'd always been kind to me, one of the few people in Daniel's professional circle who treated me like I mattered. When he saw me, his face fell. He looked uncomfortable, guilty even. He asked if we could talk privately, and something in his voice made my heart race. We sat in his car in the parking lot, and what he told me in the next 30 minutes destroyed and saved me at the same time. Daniel's company was bankrupt, completely underwater. For the past 3 years, my husband had been embezzling from his own family's business to cover a gambling addiction I never knew existed. Illegal sports betting, high-stakes poker games, loans from dangerous people. He owed over $400,000.
Christine wasn't his soulmate or his true love. She was his escape plan. Her father owned a development company in another state, wealthy and well-connected. Daniel had pursued her deliberately, strategically, because marrying into her family's money was the only way he could see to cover his massive debts and start over. But here's where it gets even worse. Patricia knew. Daniel's own mother knew about the missing money, about the gambling, about all of it. Daniel had convinced her that I was the problem, that I'd been stealing from household accounts, that I was the reason money was disappearing. The affair with Christine wasn't a passionate mistake. It was staged, calculated, designed to look natural while giving them a reason to get me out of the picture. With me gone, they could blame the financial problems on the divorce, on legal fees, on anything but the truth. Christine was complicit in all of it, promised a partnership in the family business once she and Daniel were married, and the whole mess was swept under the rug. Mr. Harrison had kept copies of everything, bank statements, emails, betting records, because he'd suspected something was wrong and wanted to protect himself. He handed them to me with shaking hands, telling me he was retiring early because he couldn't stomach being part of this anymore. I sat in that car holding those documents, and something inside me shifted. The grief transformed into something else: clarity, purpose, rage. I found a forensic accountant who agreed to help me pro bono after hearing my story. What we discovered was even more devastating. Daniel had taken out loans in my name, forging my signature on documents. My credit was destroyed. I was legally liable for debts I never knew existed, money that had gone to pay off gambling losses and fund his affair with Christine. For 3 years, while I was raising our children and trusting my husband, he was systematically destroying our lives and setting me up to take the fall. The courtroom was packed the day we presented our evidence. I'd scraped together enough money for a decent lawyer, one who believed in my case and worked partially on contingency. Daniel walked in confident, Christine beside him, Patricia and Vanessa in the row behind. They thought this was just another custody hearing they'd dominate with their resources. They had no idea what was coming. My lawyer laid it out systematically: bank statements showing the embezzlement, emails between Daniel and Christine discussing the plan, betting records spanning 3 years, forged loan documents with my signature. Every piece of evidence was damning, undeniable, devastating. I watched Daniel's face go from confident to confused to absolutely pale. Christine tried to stand up and leave, but the judge ordered her to sit down. Patricia gasped audibly when the full scope of her son's crimes was revealed. The golden boy, the successful architect, was a fraud and a criminal. The judge was thorough and clearly angry. Daniel was arrested in the courtroom on charges of fraud, forgery, and embezzlement. Christine faced charges for conspiracy and fraud. Her interior design license was immediately suspended. Her father, once the powerful ally Daniel had counted on, publicly disowned her to protect his own reputation. Patricia was forced to sell the family estate to cover the debts and Daniel's legal fees. Everything they'd built, everything they'd been so proud of, crumbled. Vanessa, who'd been so cruel to me, actually approached me after one of the hearings and apologized, tears streaming down her face. I didn't forgive her. Some things can't be forgiven. Full custody of Lily and Rose was returned to me immediately. Daniel's visitation rights were reduced to supervised visits only, and even those would wait until after his prison sentence. The judge made it clear that he'd endangered his children's welfare and destroyed their mother for his own selfish purposes. But the moment that broke me, that finally let me cry healing tears instead of tears of grief, was when Lily and Rose finally felt safe enough to tell me the truth. They'd never wanted to call Christine Mom. Patricia had coached them, telling them it would make Daddy happy, that it was like a game. They were 6 years old, scared and confused, trying to please the adults around them. They'd cried for me every night. Rose told me she used to sleep with the sweater I'd left behind, the one that still smelled like me. Lily admitted she'd been having nightmares, wetting the bed again, too afraid to tell anyone. Christine had been nice to them, they said, but she wasn't their real mommy. They'd never stopped wanting me. Daniel is serving a 6-year sentence. Christine lost everything: her career, her reputation, her family's support. Patricia lives in a small condo now, the estate sold to pay for her son's crimes. She tried to reach out to me once, to apologize, to see her granddaughters. I said no. Some bridges once burned should stay ashes. I went back to nursing, working night shifts in the ICU so I can be home with my girls during the day. We live in a small apartment, nothing like the estate, but it's ours. It's filled with laughter and love and healing. Lily and Rose are in therapy, working through the trauma of those months when their world didn't make sense. They're resilient, though, stronger than I could have imagined. Some nights I still wake up with my heart racing, reliving the moment I heard them call another woman Mom. The betrayal left scars that will probably never completely fade, but I also wake up to my daughters climbing into bed with me, their warm little bodies pressed against mine, and I know I survived the unsurvivable. I learned that people will show you who they really are if you pay attention. I learned that money and power can't hide the truth forever. I learned that sometimes the people who destroy you end up destroying themselves, and karma doesn't need your help. It just needs time. My daughters know now what happened, in age-appropriate terms. They know their father made terrible choices. They know I fought for them, that I never stopped loving them, that I would have burned the whole world down to get them back. Sometimes the worst thing that ever happens to you turns out to be the thing that saves you. Losing everything taught me what actually matters. My girls are home. We're building a new life, a better one, a real one, and that's more than enough. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear that truth always comes out. Subscribe because next week's story is even more shocking. And remember, when someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. You're stronger than you know, and you deserve people who choose you, who fight for you, who would never make you question your worth. Thanks for watching, and never forget that the truth might take time, but it always, always finds its way into the light.